I call the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors, May 22nd, meeting to order. I'll lead us in the invocation. David, could you lead us in the pledge? Please. Dear Lord, thank you for such a beautiful day in Powhatan. Please keep Powhatan safe. Please be with us as we do the people's business. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have any requests to postpone, change, or add or delete anything to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as presented? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Let the record show that all five Board of Supervisors members are present. Now move on to item 6. For those of you in the audience and those of you, if you are listening online, I would like to introduce our new county administrator. Been on the job, I think, about 26 or 27 days. And that's Mr. Ted Voorhees. We're very excited he's here. And anybody else have any comments? Other than I just wanted to introduce him.
Does it seem longer?
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, board members, I just want to say how wonderful the welcome has been from your citizens. Everywhere I go, people just tell me how much they love Powhatan and how much they hope I'm going to love Powhatan and how much they appreciate me being here. And I got to say, it's a delight to meet each and every one of them, and I really look forward to bringing my family here and contributing to the community. So thank you very much, and I appreciate citizens. I really appreciate the heartfelt welcome that y'all have given me.
Thank you. Well said. So we'll now move on to item 7. This is our first of 2 public comment periods. We invite members of the public to share their thoughts on matters and issues that are germane to county business. If you're here to speak on an item on tonight's agenda that is having a public hearing, you must wait and share your thoughts during the public hearing on each specific item. This is not a forum for political campaigning or promoting a business. Please keep your comments focused on the issues and subject matter over which this board has responsibility. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you're speaking as an individual and 5 minutes if you're representing a group. And so that staff can get your name and address correct in the minutes, could you please sign in with your name and address? Wow. Seeing no one for the first public comment period, I'll close that. We'll now move on to item 8, which is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented by the county administrator.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Do you want to do a roll
Oh,
call
excuse me.
vote on that?
Yep, we do need a roll call vote. I think you usually do that.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Nordvig,
Aye.
Mrs. Cabell,
Aye.
Mr. Melton,
Aye.
Mr. Tucker.
Aye.
Okay. They're coaching me now. They have roll call on the agenda, so I'll stop paying attention. We'll now move on to, let's do item 10A. Excuse me, hold on. Yeah, item 10A, status report on strategic action plan found on page 41 of your packet. And then 10B, which is status report on bonded projects.
Mr. Chairman, your package contains a status report. We have staff available. In the interest of time, we're certainly able to go through these, but we would just invite your questions if you have any, and we've highlighted those items with changes. I do have one update that is late breaking as of today that I think you'll be interested in, so I'll just share that with you, that we did meet with our broadband company that we so anxiously await progress on, and they did tell us that there's some key developments that occurred just in the last 30 days or so, and they also appreciated the county's support with some tower access, They are anticipating moving through the barriers to starting service within approximately 60 days and are looking for getting some customers on in August. So that's really good news, and we really look forward to continued progress.
Good, thank you very much for that update on broadband. Can't happen fast enough in my eyes. I do have, Ted, on just the one priority that really changed, it talked about evaluate current methods and types of information being presented to the public, and identify additional communication processes and avenues to promote positive county image. So it says complete. Is that a recommendation that's going to come back to us, or some things that maybe we need to do a better job of, or, you know, from that aspect?
Sure, great question, Mr. Chair. And we've got some ongoing work to take that complete work, put it in the form of an update to the board.
Okay.
But I will let you know that some of that involves enhanced social media, where we're meeting with our public safety agencies and with the schools to see how we can cross-promote. A couple of things that just happened, we were able to do a little bit of that on the NACO award, for example, and we're going to try to do a better job of pushing out on multiple.
Found on page 53 of your packet. Do you want?
And Mr. Chairman, similarly, in the interest of time, we've got information there in the packet. If you have further questions, certainly staff's here. You've got a little bit more detailed briefing at your last meeting and in closed session with some items. We're proceeding on these projects, and I just gave you a little update on the bonded project, or the broadband. We also did get some feedback from our consulting engineers on the water tower contractor, and so we're going to proceed with the low bid. As y'all were informed last time, we were comfortable with that firm. If you have any questions.
The only comment I have is, again, so last month we were looking at the water tower, and there's a bid, and y'all, so basically you work with the contractor, and then they talked with the low bidder, and it became to a level of comfort that the bid was actually something that could be completed and done correctly. And so it's a $774,000 savings over what was budgeted for that CIP project.
That's correct.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Coincidentally, I had a discussion with Russell Wilson today at another meeting and asked him for a status report on both the school and the bus garage. He said both are on schedule and on budget, despite the weather.
Fantastic. And as the $774,000 savings is really nice, as we all know, the challenge we had with the radio project and possibly being underfunded some there based upon what the previous consultants had given us. So we definitely can find a place to use the 774 if needed. So thank you for the updates. They're pretty self-explanatory. Anybody have any questions of staff? Thank you for the updates. Okay. We will now move on to item, let's see if I can, item 12, appreciation. I don't want to slight anybody if they're running late, but appreciation and resolution. Mr. Norvig's going to take this for us. So can we get Billy Quinn and others, Chief, anybody else you'd want to bring down, please? I want the volunteer rescue squad down. Come on, and others.
Hey, Chief. This is moving along pretty quickly. Are we missing anybody because we're early?
Maybe a few.
Won't it be nice to have uniforms? You'll all march down here and all look the same and everything? All right.
I came straight from work.
County Fire and Rescue Department, whereas the dedicated EMTs, EMT intermediates, and paramedics of Powhatan Volunteer Rescue Squad have partnered with the Powhatan County Fire and Rescue Department and Emergency Services Solutions to provide exemplary to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care, dramatic administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their
Involving the rescue squad. Those two people but more importantly for all the,
I'm with the American Heart Association, and I'm the Director of Clinical Systems. And I represent the Mid-Atlantic affiliate, that's Maryland to South Carolina. And so, yes, I see a lot of windshield time in my job. But I'm actually, anyways, the Mission Lifeline Award, let's talk a little bit about that. We have a program called Mission Lifeline with the American Heart Association, and it's a systems of care. So we look at the whole system, EMS to hospital, and we look at time-sensitive emergencies. So there's certain types of heart attacks called a STEMI, and strokes are time-sensitive emergencies. The quicker we get that treatment, the better the treatment is, and then, of course, the better the outcomes. And if you take a specific STEMI heart attack and you decrease the time by 30 minutes, you go from 120 down to 90, 90 to 60, take any variation, you have a 7.8% decrease in 1-year mortality. So 7.8 people out of 100 will be alive 1 year later. And so we are recognizing the quality of care that EMS is doing in our Mission Lifeline EMS recognition program. It's a national program that is across the nation. In Virginia, we have 26 agencies in the state. There are 650 EMS agencies in the state, and 26 of them will be recognized this year, of which we have 3 different categories. One is a bronze award that is for either 1 calendar quarter, or if your volume is between 4 and 7 of these STEMIs in 1 year. So you would live in a rural county, you may or may not reach 8 to make sure that we see consistent care. And then silver is for a consecutive year, an 8 or more STEMIs, and then gold is for 2+ years. I am in a unique position where my part-time job, I also work for ESS as a part-time person, so I have had the honor of serving the citizens of Powhatan on a rare occasion. And so, you know, this is an award for the EMS agency, and they did a good job. And last year, Powhatan Volunteer Rescue Squad achieved the Bronze Award, and that was due to volume, not due to quality of care. And this year, they were able to achieve the silver recognition. So with all that being said, I would like to recognize, and as the certificate says, the 2017 Mission Lifeline EMS recognition. The American Heart Association proudly recognizes the Powhatan Volunteer Rescue Squad with the Mission Lifeline EMS Silver recognition. And that means they got 85% of their chest pain patients received an ECG, an EKG, where they put the stickies on their chest within 85% of the time on a chest pain patient. And they achieved first medical contact, their contact time, to when that artery was opened in 90 minutes or less, 75% of the time. And if you think about it, the closest hospital that can do that is St. Francis Medical Center and then Chippenham Medical Center. So that means that, you know, some farthest distances, they means they have to get that 12 lead, notify the hospital, and be quick on scene to notify the hospital so the hospital can do their job in a quick and efficient manner. So it's a whole system of care. So I present this award to the Powhatan Volunteer Rescue Squad for their quality EMS care for 2017. Any questions for me before I move on? I know I kind of threw a lot of statistics out
John,
there.
thank you so much. Volume and quality, what more could you say?
Yeah, and you talked about quality in your proclamation, and that's quality of care. That was the purpose of the whole system, was to engage agencies in quality. They have to dig into their quality. They have to look at their data, and they have to improve if their data is not good enough. There are agencies that don't meet that recognition. And if they want to qualify next year, the recognition will be harder next year. Not only do they have to maintain it, but they will also have to, we've added criteria to their, and so they'll have new criteria to meet for next year. So it's pretty exciting.
We're not worried.
Nope, I'm not worried either. I work with the providers, so I'm not worried either. They'll do a great job.
No in this
so.
group. So,
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Chief.
much.
Sure, no
Thank you.
problem. And one last thing, Rescue Chief Billy Gwynn would like to come forward and do presentations for the Volunteer Provider of the Year and the Career Provider of the Year.
Let me do this one first. We had to pick a career person that's really been a big benefit to the rescue squad over the years. Josh Mullins. He's been around supporting us for years in one category or another, and continues to be there to help out the county.
Congratulations, sir.
Hand it back.
Better than me. Now, as far as volunteers went, it was really hard to pick one person. We all pick up out extra calls, standbys, you name it. So as a board, we talked about it, we wanted to recognize the whole rescue squad. Couldn't just pick one person. So just for the whole squad.
I like that. By the way, just for those of you, Mr. Billy Gwynn got recognized by his company recently as I know you're waving it down, but you do a tremendous amount for this community and in a lot of places, and we certainly appreciate all that you do and all that all your other people in the rescue squad do, volunteer rescue squad. Thank you. And firefighters, thank you.
We shared it on Facebook.
Yeah, we did. Hey.
Yeah, I already went through that.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We'll now move on to item 12D, recognition of Little Zion Baptist Church 150th anniversary celebration. And Mr. Tucker's going to take this.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, whereas Little Zion Baptist Church is commemorating its 150th anniversary on August 6, 2017, a day which communities and congregations from all over are invited to come together to help celebrate this marvelous church that proclaims that Jesus is alive. And whereas Little Zion Baptist Church has its roots in 1867 when a group of dynamic trailblazers who were members of Muddy Creek Baptist Church embarked on a mission to establish their own church. And whereas 2 years after the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, they prayed and felt led to build a brush arbor made of tree branches and limbs where they worship God, and established the Little Zion Baptist Church, where the Reverend Alfred Morris served as their first pastor. And whereas under the leadership of Reverend Morris, a vision to help establish a permanent place of worship was carried out, and ultimately an acre of land was donated, and the first structure was built on the land where the church still stands at 5680 Cartersville Road. And whereas in later years of every new pastor that ministered at Little Zion, it appeared that they had a God-given vision to do something that would improve and enrich the church family. And whereas under the leadership of the Spirit of Truth, the church's current leader, the Reverend Dr. Gregory L. Beecham Sr., was installed as the 10th pastor in 2000, and since then, many improvements by the church have occurred and new members added, and the church is presently growing. And whereas Little Zion has continued to advance and grow over the years and has undergone many transformations over the last 150 years, the original God-given vision to worship God and to guide others to Christ remains the same. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors hereby honors the 150th anniversary of Little Zion Baptist Church and proclaims Sunday, the 6th day of August 2017, as Little Zion Baptist Church Day within the community of Powhatan. Mr. Chairman, that's in the form of a motion.
We have a motion. I'll
Second.
second.
Well, all in favor?
All in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody, would you like, Ms. Goins, would you like to say anything? You don't have to.
Good evening. I just want to thank each and every one of you for this proclamation for our church. We are indeed delighted that we're coming up on our 150th year. And we just want to invite all of you. You all are welcome. Our church doors are always open to each and every one of you. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Ms.
Congrat-
Goins, could you
Yes.
tell us maybe a little bit about the preschool?
We're kind of, I really can't go into a lot of details about that because I'm not really on that committee. I know that they are diligently working on it with the sisters from Belle Meade. So we have a lot that we are digging into to try to get the preschool going, to start it, to transfer it from Belmead to Little Zion Baptist Church.
I think that there's going to be an open house in June, I believe June 12th, I think, maybe?
Okay?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. If they have any questions, they can call us, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. If there are any questions that anyone has, I'm sure if I don't have the answers, I'll be happy to look and see and find the answers and be happy to get back with you.
So the service on the 6th will start at what time?
Actually, our morning service starts at 11 a.m.
Okay.
But the afternoon service, the big celebration, which is like a big outdoor festival type celebration, is going to be outside. That starts immediately following service, like about 1:30.
Okay.
So it's all kinds of food, ribs, whatever you want, games, car shows. They have a lot planned. They also have events planned for the youth as well, for the children. They have games and stuff planned
Thank
for
you.
them as well.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay? Thank you.
Congratulations.
Please feel free to come. And if you
Congratulations.
need directions, call me.
We'll now move on to item 12E, recognition of Older Americans Month. Carson's going to take this.
Dr. Watson. We have Dr. Watson here, who's the Executive Director of the Capital Agency, a Capital Area Agency on Aging, also called Senior Connections. Thelma, good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you. And we also have Ms. Davenport.
Ms. Davenport, thank you for coming.
And I believe we might have a representative from the Department of Social Services.
Come on, Lynn. Mr. Chairman, this is a proclamation recognizing Older Americans Month. Whereas Powhatan County, Virginia includes older residents who richly contribute to our community, and whereas we acknowledge that what it means to age has changed for the better, and Mr. Williams and I know about that recently, and this year's theme for older Americans is Age Out Loud. And whereas Powhatan County is committed to supporting older adults as they take charge of their health, explore new opportunities and activities, and focus on independence, and whereas Powhatan's County Administration, the Department of Social Services, Triad, and other groups join with Senior Connections to enrich the lives of individuals of all ages by involving older adults in the redefinition of aging, promoting home and community-based services for independent living, encouraging older adults to advocate for themselves and others, supporting opportunities for older adults to share their experiences and talents, providing opportunities for activities, engagement, and volunteerism, ensuring safety and security for at-risk older adults, and assisting caretakers and their families. Therefore be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim May 2017 to be Older Americans Month, and we urge every resident to take time during this month to acknowledge older adults and the people who serve them as influential and vital parts of our community. Mr. Chairman, that's in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as presented? Aye. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to thank the service providers, the people that make this happen in the county. We much appreciate what you do, particularly Carson and I. Thank you.
Very active. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tucker, for the recognition this evening. Mr. Chairman, other members of the board, Mr. County Administrator, other officials, I'm Thelma Bland Watson, Director of Senior Connections, the Area Agency on Aging. I'd like to recognize Mrs. Davenport, who is a resident of Powhatan and a member of the Senior Connections Advisory Board, and we really appreciate her input. And we also have the Family Services Manager, Ms. Lynn Murphy from the Department of Social Services. It is indeed a partnership for us to provide services here in the county. And we want to take the opportunity this afternoon to thank you very much for your support and for your guidance that you give us. It allows us the opportunity to help older adults continue to live independently. Regardless of their situation, they're able to have choices and they're able to have options, and I think that's what we all want as we all age. So we thank you very much for your ongoing support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask these three ladies to stay with us because the next resolution also deals with
Okay.
the issues that they're in charge of.
Thank you.
Okay, so take this one.
Mr. Chairman, I have a second a proclamation. Whereas almost 5,000 residents of Powhatan County, Virginia are currently over the age of 60, and this population is expected to increase by 2030 fairly dramatically. And whereas during fiscal year 2016, Powhatan Adult Protective Services investigated 6 reports of adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and completed 42 nursing home screenings and 26 reassessments. And whereas older Virginians and Virginians with disabilities may be targets for abuse, which can occur in families, communities of all social, economic, racial, and ethnic backgrounds. And whereas in order to reduce the incidence of child abuse, of adult abuse in Powhatan, there are a number of adult abuse prevention programs that provide vital services to older and disabled citizens, including 24-hour hotline, crisis intervention, emergency shelter, home-based and community services, public education, and legal advocacy. And whereas Adult Abuse Prevention Month offers all residents of Powhatan County the opportunities to participate in community efforts to improve the safety and well-being of people throughout the Commonwealth, to recognize the organizations and the individuals who serve them, and to remember victims of adult abuse and their families. And whereas the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitation, home to the State Adult Protective Services Division, promotes an integrated vision and streamlined services to help older and disabled Virginians to live free of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes May 2017 as Adult Abuse Prevention Month in Powhatan County and calls this observation to the attention of all of our citizens. Mr. Chairman, that's in the form of a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Stick with that one too. Lynn?
Thank you.
I wasn't prepared to say anything, but I'll just say thank you. I think everything that we do as a community, and that's the beauty of Powhatan. And I know for us next door, we would not be able to do a lot of the unique stuff we do locally if we didn't have the support of everyone in this room. So thank you.
Thank you.
We don't expect you to
We had a situation that I became aware of that y'all at Social Services actually, shared with me that y'all had been out and investigated and that things were being done properly, and it brought a peace of mind to myself and several others that were concerned about some of the things that were going on. So y'all do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. The next one is a proclamation recognizing Foster Care Month. As an aside, sitting on the Social Services Board along with Ms. Cabell, we see what a difficult time it is to find foster care parents for kids who need help and guidance, and therefore it's a pleasure to propose this proclamation. Whereas for more than 100 years, the Commonwealth of Virginia, localities, and local organizations have worked to improve and assist youth in foster care, and whereas there are more than 5,200 children from Virginia in foster care and 6 children in foster care in Powhatan, and whereas in 2006, Virginia extended foster care services to age 21 through the Foster Futures program, and whereas every child in foster care deserves the security and opportunity for growth that a family can provide, and whereas a child's success is best supported in a system that is family-focused, child-centered, community-based, and whereas foster, adoptive, and kinship parents provide Virginia's children with opportunities to be part of caring families and help them connect to permanent homes through unification, placement with relatives, or preparation for adoption, and whereas through the partnerships among foster, adoptive, and kinship parents, child welfare staff, and public and private child care organizations, efforts are being made to ensure that children are safe and their voices are heard as we work for the success of every children. Therefore, there be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes May 2017 as Foster Care Month in Powhatan County and calls this observation to the attention of all of our citizens. Mr. Chairman, that's in the form of a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as presented? Aye.
Aye.
Comments? Lynn,
Thank you, Chairman
do you have anything you want to say, add? Not necessary.
Just thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this to our attention because it's something we all should be aware of. We'll now move on to item 12H, recognition of Virginia Department of Transportation Marvin Butch Sirey for his service to the citizens of Powhatan. Oh, there he is, sitting out there with a smile on his face. Mr. Williams will take this one for us.
This is a proclamation recognizing Virginia Department of Transportation's Marvin Butch Sirey for his service to the citizens of Powhatan County. Whereas Marvin Butch Sirey has worked with VDOT in various capacities for 38 years, and whereas Mr. Sirey has held positions with VDOT that include operator, foreman, superintendent, district infrastructure manager, assistant residency administrator, and residency administrator, and whereas his colleagues and all those who came in contact with him can attest to his unceasing kindness, positivity on and off the clock, and his willingness to help others, and whereas among Mr. Sirey's many accomplishments on and off the clock, he helped establish and was the first superintendent of the Pocahontas area headquarters, where he received the Commissioner's Award for Excellence in 1995. And whereas Mr. Sirey has worked tirelessly to partner with Powhatan County in paving almost all of their unpaved roads, and whereas Mr. Sirey is very active with his church, working very closely with the elderly in his church, and filling in periodically as minister, and whereas Mr. Sirey has announced his retirement and looks forward to spend more time with his family. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors extends its heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Sirey for its outstanding performance and responsiveness, wishes him every happiness in retirement, and calls upon all citizens of Powhatan to extend their own congratulations to Butch upon his much-deserved retirement. Mr. Chairman, I make this proclamation in form of a motion.
Second.
Motion, and all in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Yes.
Butch, it goes without saying, everybody who's worked with you sees you as positive, can-do, respectful, kind. All of us do. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick comment.
I have one too when you're done, if you want.
Butch, when I called, you always said, we'll figure it out. We'll figure a way to get it done. And you knew how to say no, because I asked a lot, but you always stepped forward and you accomplished tremendous things for us, for the citizens of the county, and for that, I thank you. Enjoy your retirement, but don't hide from us.
Butch, is there anything you can do about the parking lot outside? It's a mess out there. Now, I do have a comment. Half of Rocky Ford Road, the east half, is in District 2, which I represent, and the other half of that road is in Mr. Melton's district. Literally for years, the citizens on Rocky Ford were complaining about the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit being too high. There were places where there really were deep ditches, and that's an old road. Old ladies throwing themselves across mailboxes when two pickup trucks would come in both directions and that kind of thing. I heard all the stories. All it took was one chaotic and reckless drive down Rocky Ford in your truck with Chairman Melton. If you remember that day, you try to keep the speed limit and you just can't. And I was expecting the speed limit to be knocked down to 45. I think that's what I was asking for. He gave me more than I asked for as far as knocking the speed limit down, and also a good number of warning signs and that kind of thing. I just want to let you know that I still today hear appreciation from the people who live along that road and it's a long road. They waited a long time to see those safety measures put in place. So I'm transferring all their thanks to me right back onto you. I think you deserve a lion's share of that credit, and I'm deeply appreciative of everything you've done for this county. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I might. I can remember when VDOT wasn't exactly a word that you wanted to be mentioning here in the county.
Four-letter word.
Had negative connotations. But I remember first time I met Butch, a change. You could see it immediately. We've received customer service in this county like we've never received before. And Kevin, I hope you're listening. No challenge here, but this gentleman really has raised the bar in terms of our expectations and, you know, the customer service that, you know, he's provided us. He never says no. I remember calling him up one day and I said, I've received a call about potholes down at Founder's Bridge and down 7-Eleven. He says, I got a truck in the area. I'll send them down there to, you know, to fix the holes. That's the kind of customer service we've received in this county. And Butch, I'm gonna miss you. I don't mind telling you. You have been absolutely great to work with. All the best, partner.
Butch, if you'd like to say something, you're more than welcome. Like goodbye? No.
I just want to say that it's been a pleasure working with each and every one of y'all. Y'all have been excellent to work with, understanding, and like you said, when I have to say no, you do understand. I tried to explain why, but I'm going to be in Powhatan. Actually, I recently joined the Huguenot Bee Keepers Association, so I'm in this room once a month. So I'm going to keep an eye on the roads in Powhatan, make sure things are going good.
Yep.
But thank y'all very much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. This is really
Thank you,
very,
Butch.
very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Butch, Kevin, y'all don't have to stick around. For those of you in the public, Kevin's going to be taking Butch's place, so he has some big shoes to fill. I guess we've got to take a
Good
break,
night.
really. All we have left is our public hearings, which we started time sensitive at 7, so I can't start those early. But one, if we could go in, you want to try to do closed session?
We can do speed closed session if you'd like.
Yeah.
Heck, yeah.
Let's do that. We got 15 minutes. We'll hold ourselves to 15 minutes.
All right, we'll make it happen.
I didn't mask my
Can you lead
excitement.
us, lead us in closed session?
All right, whereas the Board of Supervisors of Powhatan County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following. One matter concerning consideration of investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, or if made public initially, the financial interest of the government unit would be adversely affected. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. And whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 3711A6 and A7 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Powhatan County does hereby authorize discussion of aforesaid matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor of the motion as presented? Aye. We're in closed session.
Do you certify to the best of your knowledge that the only matters discussed in the closed meeting were public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just conducted? Mr. Williams?
All right.
Mr. Nordvig?
Aye.
Mrs. Cabell?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
So now we'll move on to our first public hearing. This is ordinance 2017-11, amending the Powhatan County Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, fee schedule to increase water rates, wastewater rates, emergency transport fees, erosion and sediment permit fees, and provide fire prevention fees, and to update certain other fees, found on page 77 of your packet. Charlie, you going to take this one?
Yes, sir. Before you tonight is ordinance O 2017-11, which is amending our fee schedule every year during the budget process. We have staff review the fee schedule, recommend any increases in rates or changes, clean up items. We're still kind of working through those, finding some duplicates, things like that. So we did have some housekeeping on it as well. Presented to the board at their workshop on March 6th. We also advertised in the Powhatan Today on April 5th, May 10th, and May 17th. The water and sewer rates, we increased 5% in accordance as well with Chesterfield increasing their rates, and also in an effort to maybe one day become a self-supporting fund, we need to increase our rates for that. The ones for the emergency services is for changes in Medicare, as well as we added and to be in line with the region, we also added a non-transport fee for when they are called out and administer whatever is needed at the home, and they're not actually needed to be transported, which is allowed to be billed by insurance. I stand ready for any questions anyone have.
Any questions of staff? Just thank you for
do.
mentioning that the water, excuse me, Mr. Norvig, apologize.
It's okay.
That the water rates and sewer rates were a reflection of increases from Chesterfield County. You know, and I do agree that eventually we'd like to have a self-supporting system. We're ways from that. One day we'll get there. And then the only other thing I had was, again, would like to make sure we mention that there are transport fees. There is a waiver that you can, apply, call and say that you have no insurance, and the county will review that, and if it is, then you're not billed for that. So
Correct.
that's
We do
still in place.
hardship
Yep,
letters, and the county administrator, per the ordinance, has the authority to write those off, and we do get those and send them back to the billing company.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hi, Charlotte. The fines for failure to submit monitoring manhole test results by the required deadline, we're
Yes.
looking at $100 plus $10 a day past the deadline.
Yes, sir.
My question is, if somebody has some sort of difficulty, which there have been issues in the past, and Ramona, you're welcome to come up to the microphone too. If somebody has difficulties here, and I have heard from one business owner on this, is there some kind of appeal process or a freeze on the $10 a day while we work that out? Speak to the citizens about this so they don't pucker up on this too much.
We actually sent a letter out for the people that missed the last two, and the fines were like $400. So the people that contacted us and said, I'm trying to work this out, I asked them for a contract, to see a contract that they had with the testing company, sampling and testing company, and if they could provide that, we waived the fee, because it shows us that the next go-around that they're going to have all their test results in.
Okay, excellent. And is there anything in writing from our end, from the county's end, that says something, that there's an appeal process or whatever?
There is not an appeal process.
Is there a way we could add a line that just says, if you disagree, whatever, you can appeal it to such and such, or is that just understood, and we don't need to do that?
I think it's more at the director's discretion, if they want to call us up and explain their difficulty. We're not going to be unreasonable about it. So if they can show me that they're trying to get the test results done, and that they couldn't schedule it, or they didn't get the information, I'll work with them.
Okay.
I'm more interested in getting them in compliance than issuing fines.
Totally understand, but, when you become President of the United States and we have to replace you, I don't know that the next person would be as generous. I don't know. But, so Ted, I guess this question's kind of rolling up to you. Do we need to put something in writing about this, or is this something that's going to be okay?
Thank you, Mr. Nordvig. We'll take a look at that and see if we need to put a clause in the ordinance that relates to our method of review and appeal. We'll take a look at that, and if we need to do something, we'll bring it back to the board.
All right, thank you.
But can we pass this tonight and modify it later with
Yes.
something you come forward
Yes.
with, if indeed you do?
Again, and I hear Mr. Norvig, Ramona may interpret it one way, and then the next utility director may interpret it another way. I think the biggest intent was, as Ramona said, it's not really the fine, it's to make sure that there is some bite in, that you are bringing it forward and you are going to come in compliance and do the action. So I think that's more what we're looking for than really the $300 or $400 that comes with the fine. So we'll get back with you guys. Thanks for bringing it up, Larry, and we'll figure it out from there.
And Mr. Chairman, it sort of cuts both ways. It would be probably beneficial to be clear to the administrator and the director as to what their discretion is, so that they don't get in any kind of bind being.
Well, I think one of the things, if we looked tonight, there was a cleanup on the convenience center on a definition of a vehicle size. And I know, speaking with the director over there, he was saying that they're getting some challenges on what is a big pickup, what's a big trailer, what's a small trailer, and so I was nice to see that cleanup there that talked about, you know, the sizes, and so that you're being consistent and fair, and you're not putting y'all in the middle of a wrestling match. So thank you, Larry, and you're exactly right. Okay, well, any other questions of staff? Not, we'll have a public hearing on ordinance 2017-11. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve 2017-11 as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second?
And we have a roll call vote, Mr. Chair. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Nordvig?
Aye.
Ms. Cabell?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
And Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We'll now move on to our second public hearing. Item ordinance 2017-15, establishing a transient occupancy tax in the amount of 5% of the total amount paid for lodging. Brad, are you taking this, or is, okay? So, I'll take it. So does it, as we've discussed this numerous times in workshops, you know, this is basically a transient occupancy tax that we've talked about in many workshops. And if anybody has any questions of staff, we can ask them at this time. I will make a motion after we have the public hearing on a little change I'm considering. So, any other questions of staff? Okay. If not, I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2017-15, establishing a transient occupancy tax pursuant to Virginia Code 58.1, 3819. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time.
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'm Blanton Gordon. Seen you guys a number of times, so appreciate
Welcome,
everything
Mr.
you've
Gordon.
done.
Thank you for your great business you have in the county.
That's right. Thank you. I don't have any problems with the tax right off the bat. Just want to say that. I'm not sure how it's going to be implemented, time schedule wise, and that kind of thing. My first concern is we're booked all through this year. We've got 20 booked for next year. We've got a couple booked for 19. I've already got contracts with all these people, so I can't go back to these people and try to recoup that money. So I don't know if there's a way to make it effective far enough down the road that it doesn't, you know, I'm not worried about the 19 ones, the 2019 events, but with 20 of them in 18, that's a pretty good chunk. So I'd like to kind of see if there's something that we can do to keep all that so I can kind of get the bank paid back a little quicker. It'd be great. The other thing would be more of, how is it going to be in our situation? You know, we have a price that includes everything on our property, including lodging for a number of people. So I'm not sure how we would go about breaking that out or how that works.
Great question.
I'd love to find, you know, I'm all good with coming up with a fair price per bedroom or something like that. But, you know, our packages include all this stuff, so just whatever fair price that we come up with on something like that, like I say, I don't mind it at all.
And I guess you don't want to pay 5% on the total bill, do you?
Wow, that would definitely hurt. Absolutely.
Great question, thank you.
It would definitely hurt. So that's the two big things. A non-related thing that's sort of related to it, because I know you were looking at towards marketing. I know we spend a tremendous amount of money on marketing and brings a lot of people into the county. We had family in last weekend from Australia, so we got people coming in from all over. The daughter wasn't from Australia, well, she was living here, but her parents were there. So, you know, we spent a ton of money ourselves on marketing, And it brings all these people into the county. And all of us, our venues are probably in that same situation. It's not unique to me. It's primarily affecting us and the mill, of course. And so my biggest concern, like I said, is how to figure out the weddings we already have booked and how to break out the lodging for the other, when we have it all included in the package. That's the biggest concerns. It'd be nice if we get the, because I know you got 2% towards marketing. It'd be nice if some of that could go towards and I know you've already been working on the broadband internet type stuff. That's a huge thing for businesses out here. I know my son would love to be back out in Powhatan, but they have to have high speed. And of course, in that end of the county, it might be another 10 years before we get it, but still, it'd be nice to get it.
Hopefully before 10. But
I hope so too. I'd like to get him back out there. So that's the two main concerns, like I say, is the time frame that'll be enacted, and then how we work out the per bedroom price or something like that.
thank you. We'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward at this time.
Jamie Timberlake, 1450 Schroeder Road, Commissioner of Revenue. And a little bit along the same lines, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but maybe didn't know that we were trying to get it into this budget cycle. Thought we were looking at the beginning of next year. We've got some concerns on our side as far as collections too. We're talking 40-some days before we'd be July 1st trying to collect this, and we don't have anything, as far as design or how we're going to report back to us. And as far as previous speakers' concerns, we have lots of models for how we can come up with the individual tax per room or difference in the tax. That part of them I'm not as worried about. But I think they do have some legitimate concerns. The same ones have been voiced to my office from the three main people that are affected, is that they've already booked things for this year and next that they would have to go back and collect above and beyond what people thought was a contract price. So that is a concern. But thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Timberlake. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. I'll close the public hearing. So Carson's got his hand up. You can go first.
Well, I'm very touched by the issue about already reserved. I hadn't even thought about that. So if we added a sentence to the end of this ordinance excludes reservations made before the ordinance goes into effect. Can we do that?
Well, I will point out the ordinance doesn't tax the innkeeper. It taxes the person renting the room. And so it really has their bookings. I mean, if you go to hotels.com and book a room, it gives you a room quote. When you go pay, there's going to be tax on top of that. The tax is imposed on the person occupying the room. It's not a tax on the business, it's a tax on the occupant. And so.
And I fully understand that. However, I think in his my elementary education of wedding venues, he's given them a price, and that price is included a room. If he adds, and they've got, 6 rooms he's renting them, they add the tax on, they're gonna say, wait a minute, I signed a contract for $200, and you're now charging me $250, and so, I understand what you're saying, but I also kind of feel what he's having to say.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tom, back when we had the sales tax increase for transportation, back there with McDonald, isn't that the same situation? I mean, people that if you quote a price and then you have a change in the amount of the sales tax in the state of Virginia coming into effect on July 1, that impacted businesses across the state, did it not?
Well, any tax increase is that way. I mean, any sort of a tax increase that you pass, it impacts the person that's being taxed, in this case, the occupiers of these rooms. That's just the nature of taxation.
So you can't, what I'm talking about is as an individual vendor of somebody that provides occupancy, I can't guarantee what the tax is going to be going forward.
Well, and the vendor isn't responsible if we impose a tax. His contract is still valid. If his contract is for $1,000 his contract's still for $1,000. He doesn't have to amend his contract, just that we are now
contract
putting a
can't-
5% tax on that $1,000. So legally, it doesn't create any problem for the innkeeper or the hotel keeper or the person renting the room, because their price is fixed for the actual commodity, the taxes on top of that.
Well, let me ask a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, because I heard a couple of things. With Jamie coming down and saying he wasn't quite prepared, his shop, with, you know, what was it, 40 days to go in implementing this. My question would be is, Tom, can you delay this? Does it have to be July 1, or can it be a later date that would allow for Mr. Timberlake to get himself prepared and to be able to take this on?
No, you can, at the very top of it says the levy shall become effective July 1, but you can make that any date you want. You could make that January 1 of 18 or July 1 of 18 and give people a year's notice that it's coming.
Because I think that's an important piece of information I would like to have back from the Commissioner of Revenue. When would he be prepared? And again, you know, going back to what I think Mr. Timberlake said, there were different models to help out the individual vendors in terms of how the tax is to be applied.
Well, yeah, in fact, if the ordinance itself has a provision in there that says that if what you're purchasing is more than just the room, that the invoice needs to break the room out as an identifiable portion of the total price. That's actually a provision in, I can't remember where, but it's in one of the paragraphs. It specifically says that if you're selling a package, that the room needs to have a separate line item on the invoice.
I get that when I go get one of those specials at the hotel from a sweetheart from my wife a lot. So I do those things all the time, so. God help me. I hear you, David. I'm not sure, and I don't mean this bad against Jamie, and I know we don't want to do it in 40 days, but I have utmost confidence that he could get it done in the near future. I would like to pass this and then put a date on it that we're all comfortable with, that it starts with. I do think if you've issued contracts, and I hear you, Tom, and I don't disagree that once, and to your point, once the tax is passed, it really is, it's a tax that's passed. But I do think we should give some leadway to these type of venues that are booking some rooms, and so they can at least let their people know that there was a tax pass that's now affecting your room rate. So, I think, you know, I don't want to wait. If you remember, I think the dollar figure was around $8,000 we thought it would generate. So it's, you know, you know, it's not an exorbitant amount of money. It is dollars and things, and I think it's more to come in the future. So maybe January 1st, could you support January 1st? We give this thing, we pass it, January 1st, and then as far as a contract date, I think maybe anything dated before,
January 1st.
would you say January 1st, so you'd still give them a chance to book the rooms? You wouldn't go back to July and say, hey, anything?
You're creating an unwieldy duty of a government entity to look into the transactions of a private business as to their bookings and verification of bookings and when bookings were made. I don't think we want to do that.
I'd agree. Thank you. So do you have a,
So
go
the
ahead.
three issues of change possible. One, the date of implementation. We sort of got a consensus on January the 1st. Two, whether we exclude reservations already made. It sounds like we're getting advice, don't do that. And three, whether we include campgrounds or not.
And that was one of the things I was going to bring up.
Those are the three issues on the table, am I right?
And I'll share a little bit of history on the family campgrounds. Commission Revenue got me some information, and the state does not charge for their cabins. And I fundamentally have a problem with a private industry having to compete against the state on an unfair playing field, I think. If the state's collecting an occupancy tax, then the private industry can, or if the private industry can, the state should do it. So that's why I thought we should exclude, you know, travel campgrounds, as it says in the ordinance. If the state would then ever start allowing their campgrounds to pay an occupancy tax, then I would support putting it on that industry in our county also. But I think it's unfair to put it on one business That's just my personal feelings, and I thought I'd share that with you, so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, force us to answer the questions unofficially, each one of the three.
Okay.
Do we agree on January the 1st?
I do.
David, your
Yeah.
thoughts? January 1st?
If that gives the Commissioner of Revenue enough
Yes.
time to get his office up to speed, yes.
Gives it more than 40 days, so.
The second issue is, do we exclude campgrounds?
I vote yes. That was my recommendation.
Yes.
My opinion is also yes, because we're in the mode right now of trying to gin up tourism as one of our commercial development options, and why not give them every advantage over the new yurts that they just put in the state park? I agree. And, maybe down the road, when things are really going well and we've got agritourism, et cetera, booming, then we can take another look at that, but I'm in favor of it right now.
Right, well, I'll vote no to that because I feel like that puts the Gordon's, the Mill at Fine Creek, any other cabin, cottage, whatever term you want to put on it, at an unfair disadvantage. If it were up to me, I'd tax the state too, but they've taken that away from me because they're the bigger kid on the bus, so all right. But I also feel that it's very important that when we institute a tax, that we do it equitably. And we cannot say, well, we'll not do it for the campground, but we'll do it, I mean, the campground's already not getting taxed on people that are camping. They're only getting taxed on the people that are staying in a cottage. And maybe all campgrounds don't choose to have cottages. I think that's a slippery slope. It unfairly disadvantages these other businesses that have put in overnight lodging, which we have so desperately asked people to do, and what we want to attract to this county. And exempting some and not taxing others is unjust, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, I'm just taking in what Ms. Cabell said, and I think she did a wonderful job of summing up, what I think is a critical issue. If we're talking about wanting to have tourism and bringing people here, then let's don't even have the lodging tax. Let's, as Ms. Cabell said, let's don't have it for the mill. Let's don't have it when we hopefully one day have a hotel here or a motel here in the village. Because if that's the rationale, that we're somehow hurting people coming to the county, then we shouldn't even have it. Now, going back to what Angie said, and she said it very well, it's a slippery slope. When you start doing carve-outs for certain groups or certain types of businesses, you never know what's going to come in later. And they're going to ask for some special consideration. And I don't know what it would be. But all I know is from experience, that's typically what happens. Once you do it for some people, expect it to come when other people come in and make their case. Now, we don't get too many tools from the General Assembly. But when we do get a tool and we exercise the option to use that tool, we ought to use it. Going back to Tom's point, when you get into all these other issues about people have made their bookings and things like that, that's not where you want to go. You're opening up a can of worms. And I was glad to see that we pivoted from going there. Now, I don't want to go back and reopen the fight over the state park again. I was there when when Billy and I were there in Carson. We were all there when, that issue was being hotly debated here in the county. I personally don't see state parks like the one that we have over on Old River Trail on the James River being in competition with other forms of lodging here in the county. It's unique into itself. It offers something that you can't get anyplace else in the county. So I don't see it as a competition issue. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate the time.
And I'm curious, legally, what does define a campground? And so my question would be, if I decide to throw up a bunch of yurts in my front yard, if I designate it as Angie's Campground, I don't have to pay lodging tax, but if I call them Angie's Cottages or Angie's Yurts, then I do?
Well, I was actually, if you decide to drop the campground, then I think we may need to wordsmith this a little bit more, because the way it's written now, it says, we use the word hotel as a catch-all, and we call it, said a hotel means a public or private hotel, inn, hostelry, tourist home, house, motel, rooming house, campground, or other lodging place. So even if we deleted the word campground, I'd say it's probably caught with other lodging place, as long as it's renting rooms. So if we're going to eliminate campgrounds, we're going to have to probably take that other lodging place language out too, or I think we still catch the campground even though we took it out, if that makes sense. Because that other lodging place is that catch-all to cover you putting some yurts in your front yard or whatever.
So.
Great
again,
question. And Angie, I appreciate your comments tremendously. You know, I don't disagree in theory. I just, you know, again, I feel that to exempt one operation, I don't think the state should have the authority, well, I guess they have the authority to do what they want to, but I don't think they should exempt the campground. And when you have a private campground that you're gonna institute that tax on, institute on both, if you institute it on the state campgrounds, I'd be supporting it on the campgrounds. And, you know, that's my whole rationale behind it. So I guess we have, three that felt, anybody, Mr. Norvig, you got any other thoughts after hearing both Mr. Williams and Angie's comments, which were very valid?
No, absolutely valid, and I'm not a big tax guy anyway. I mean, as in, I don't like taxes. But when I'm looking at this issue, I do see the campground as being a direct competitor to the state park, whereas something like the mill is not. People that are going to stay in a yurt versus a tent on a tent pad or in a cabin are looking for something different. So there's a little bit of apples and oranges there to me. But what Tom just said makes me hesitate. What Tom just said, if I'm correct, is the way this is written, this could be a problem of definition, right?
Well, if you decide to take out campgrounds, I would suggest that it say rooming house, comma, or other lodging place, parentheses, excluding campgrounds, parentheses, so that we leave the other lodging place, but say the other lodging place doesn't include campgrounds. Because otherwise, we won't be, if that makes sense. If we take out campground and other lodging place, I think you have a big old door that we're gonna be fighting over. Well, you know, I'm not really a hotel, I'm not really a, like, for example, I mean, a bed and breakfast might argue, well, I'm not technically one of these. That's why the other lodging place language is in there, so that we're not fighting over it. People call, well, I'm a country inn, but well, inn's included. Well, I'm not a country inn, I'm a bed and breakfast, or I'm a, you know, I'm a Airbnb facility. And
I'm starting to get the impression we're pushing a rope here on this, trying to exclude one, and now I'm uncomfortable with excluding it, not based on so much on theory, but on practicality here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
Make it then.
I move that we deny ordinance 0217-15.
I'm not going to support I think we should defer I think we need an occupancy tax. I think we should.
Ask for a second on my motion.
Excuse me, I apologize. Do I have a second on the denial? You're exactly right, Mr. Tucker.
Then it dies.
Okay.
Now you can have it.
Okay.
Now we can defer.
I think, I asked Ted briefly, I think we should, you know, while we've debated this thing and workshopped it, I think we do need a transiency occupancy tax to be in place for the future as much as anything else, as we've been coached by some of our economic development consultants and things, put the tax in place, so it's all known. I want to defer this thing for 60 days till there, let's see, it would be, I don't know if it'd be 60 days, but let's do from not our June meeting to our July meeting, and allow staff to work on some issues and get them back to us, and then let us make a decision. If we decide at that point it's still muddy, still unclear, after, then maybe we do just not pass it and we move on. But I think we, you know, let staff do a little more work based upon the questions from Mr. Gordon, which were very valid and very good questions. And then the Commissioner of Revenue can weigh in a little with his situation, and we can weigh all the comments from Mr. Williams and Ms. Cabell and all others. So I'm going to do it till our July meeting, which Am I okay with that, Tom, versus 60 days?
Motion to defer to the regular July meeting. Yes.
Perfect.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And this would be for our county administrator, Mr. Voorhees. Sometimes when we defer, it creates problems. Are you okay with this deferment? Do you see any issues here?
Thank you for that consideration. I don't. I think Jamie will, or Mr. Timberlake will have a chance to review the models. We'll have a chance to confer with the attorney a bit about language options, and then we can take under consideration the thoughts we've heard this evening.
Okay. I support deferring.
Okay.
Second motion to defer.
I was going to ask for
We have a
second.
motion and a second. All in favor? You want to do, we probably need to do a roll call. I apologize.
You don't need to do a roll call on a deferral.
Okay. Then,
Aye.
all in favor of the deferral? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. The ordinance is deferred until our July meeting. We'll next open a public hearing on ordinance 2017-13, the County of Powhatan request amending and reenacting of the zoning ordinance, the County of Powhatan, Article 3, Section 83-170. Brett?
Good evening, board members. Brett Chardine, Director of Community Development. This is an ordinance to amend the setbacks for animal confinement zoning district. Currently, our zoning ordinance applies a setback to poultry growing operations, poultry processing, swine, and dairy operations, all lumped together in one. In researching this, many other localities separate those, with poultry growing being the least intensive use, and then having larger setbacks for things like the swine facility or poultry processing. So what this draft would do is separate out the poultry growing operation, apply a lesser setback to that, and maintain the larger setback to those other more intense operations. Staff looked at what our neighbors and other similarly situated localities in the state do. So I think this would situate us kind of in the middle there. There's some more rural localities that have a slightly less setback. Some more urban or suburban localities have a greater setback. But at least for my part, I think this is kind of logically in the middle for where Powhatan might want to be. Public input we've received on this. Owner of several poultry houses in the county expressed that they're in favor, as well as the Farm Bureau, who is in favor, supports this amendment as well. I think one thing worth pointing out, too, is we have relatively few of these existing operations in the county. So if you see fit to change this, this isn't something that all of a sudden there's consequences all across the county. Any new operation would need to rezone to this category, so it's going to go through the public process and the review. And this is just a minimum setback for kind of an ideal situation. If it's something that's questionable, you think there's going to be more issues with odor or sound, again, through the rezoning process, we could always try and get greater setbacks or buffers or things like that. But again, for an ideal scenario, this gives a little more flexibility, a little more leeway. So the Planning Commission, they held their public hearing and unanimously recommended approval. Similarly, staff recommends the board accept the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff? I think we've talked about this in several workshops and stuff. Okay, we'll hold the public hearing on ordinance 2017-13. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time.
Jamie Timberlake, 1450 Schroeder Road. My Uncle Max had to go to Maryland for a family event for the next few days, so just wanted to say thank you from him and from the Farm Bureau for this is exactly the way the process should happen. It promotes agritourism, it promotes the agriculture business in general, and I think they are very appreciative of Brett and his staff and how we work together to come to this compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Timberlake. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, this is my district. Or the farm that was most impacted is in my district, let's put it that way. And I move that we approve ordinance 0217-13 as presented.
Motion and a second.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that motion made in accordance with public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay.
I'd just like to point out the chickens on the trucks come through my district. Some crap District 1 here.
They leave a
Max
few
lives
feathers
in
there.
my district.
Okay.
So does Jamie.
So we have a motion and a second, and Ted, you do vote, please.
Roll call vote. Mr. Williams.
David?
Aye.
Mr. Williams, to approve or
He said aye.
deny? Oh, aye, I'm sorry, I
He- he
didn't hear.
wasn't hollering
Mr.
at-
Nordvig?
Aye.
Mrs. Cabell?
Aye.
Mr. Milton?
Aye.
And Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
It is unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. We'll now move on to our next public hearing, ordinance 2017-14, Constance Kennan, Harris trustee for conditional use permit. And Brett, you're going to take this one?
Yes, sir. So this is an application for a conditional use permit to allow a total of 3 dwellings on the Norwood property. There's, in addition to the large dwelling currently occupied as a home, there's 2 historic, call them outbuildings behind the home. The applicant would like to convert those 2 dwellings to allow use by family members as dwellings. So staff has reviewed this. It's a large property, so the minimum acreage, the maximum density for the RR zoning property, again, we're not even close to approaching that. It's still well below the density requirements. Again, no real concerns with it. Members of the public expressed no concerns. I think we got one phone call, just curious about what it was, and once we explained the facts of the case, stated they had no concerns with it. Planning Commission held their public hearing, 5-0 recommended approval of this. Have some of our standard conditional use permit conditions that we're recommending go along with this. Again, several of them are fairly generic, so I'll just point out the ones that are more unique to this particular use. Number 4, each single-family dwelling would have a separate address to allow, again, if there were to be first responders, to identify which building to go to. And then to cap it at a total of 3 dwellings. The use in the table actually just says you get a conditional use permit for more than 1 dwelling. So again, so that's not open-ended, that you end up with more houses than maybe the public was comfortable with in reviewing this. Otherwise, again, staff would recommend approval in conjunction with the Planning Commission's recommendation. And you may want to know that the applicant, I don't see her here tonight, but these conditions have been discussed with her at the Planning Commission hearing. They had asked the question, and she had said they're in agreement with these conditions. No concern there.
I got some questions of staff. I'll go first. So, and please don't take the questions as I'm not in support of this, because I have been in support of all these type of conditional use permits that give the ability to maintain some properties and provide housing for people as they age and things like that. So, Brett, so the conditions, though, the conditions would apply that the family members live here. I think it's the Mrs. Harris, and then her son is in the other residence, if I'm remembering
Correct.
correctly from reading.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And then at the time of their, I hate to say it this way, at the time of their death, it would revert, the CUP would be null and void at that time, correct? So they just couldn't put somebody else in there?
This, we did not put such a condition in there. The intent of the applicant is to use it for that family use. But yeah, here, when we state single family, we just mean the zoning ordinance definition of single family, not actual property owner's family.
And I know Mr. Williams is very versed in this, so, I'm just asking the questions and try to digest. So this is the first time in my knowledge of almost 20 years doing this that we've ever allowed a conditional use permit for a second dwelling and a third, well, not for a second dwelling, but a third dwelling on a single piece of property. Would that be, I don't know of many. Not that this is not a large piece of property and it makes really good sense, but I don't know of many that we've ever, and so it'd be 3 pieces of single-family housing on this property.
Correct, and staff typically with these will research, look at common cases in the past. We have not. One thing that's unique about this is the more than 1 dwelling unit is only allowed in the RR district. Most of the other ones you've approved in the past or considered in the past are A10, R2 districts like that, which actually, they state it differently. They say second detached dwelling, so it's capped at 2. Again, for whatever reason, RR allows a little more flexibility, so this would be the first one. Another thing probably worth pointing out, when we met with the applicant and discussed it, they do have the acreage and they do have the ability to do this as a family division, so they could divide a piece for each parcel.
I'm not
and do it.
interested in them having to consider that. I think it fits very well with what's going on over there, so I just wanted to understand.
Sure.
That was my questions. So, any other questions of staff?
I'm going to follow up on your comments, Mr. Chairman. So in the RR district, we, I think, included a provision for hardship, just like we did in A10, where you could have the second dwelling, you know, in situations just like what we're talking about. Connie and Ted are getting like Carson and I, older in their years, and the plan was to be able to have that second dwelling, so somebody would be there at the main house, you know, there to provide and help them as they enter their later years. Is that correct?
Correct, although I believe that hardship provision, again, we didn't really use that one here specifically. That, as I recall, may again cap it at only having a second unit, not the third. But again, that may, you know, in lieu of a conditional use permit, that might be an option available to them. But this was the route, you know, they chose to go with it, to allow both outbuildings to become dwellings.
But they could by right carve out a piece of land and do the third house, could they not?
Correct, they could.
And I don't think we want to do that to
No.
a historic place like Norwood, where they're trying to adaptively reuse the old buildings.
And that was my point, I guess, Mr. Tucker, thank you, was not to ask the question to try to force them to do something that really doesn't, as I said, this fits extremely well with what's going on. I just wanted to understand for the future, you know, because in my knowledge, as I said, I don't think I've ever had seen a third dwelling be on a piece of property, you know, in my knowledge, and, you know, maybe it's the first one and that's okay. But I just wanted to understand it.
Well, I think you made a good point, Mr. Chairman, because I have the same recollection. I can't remember we've done it either. Can you, Carson?
No, sir.
Brett?
That doesn't mean we can't. So,
No,
I mean, it's there.
Brett, let me ask you a question then. Do you, from a planning perspective, does this present any problems?
No, we've reviewed this, you know, for the traffic impact, you know, the typical things we look at.
No, I'm talking about,
what
you
you
know,
needed.
for, you know, whoever comes there 10 years from now, 20 years, does this establish, because you haven't done the family division and cut off the 2 acres or whatever, it's still one parcel there on that property, and now will be with 3 occupants. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
Yep.
a question to you, from a planning perspective, you know, from a subdivision ordinance going forward, does this create a precedent or any problems? And Carson knows what I'm talking about.
No, staff has no concern from a planning perspective, and the use, there's also in our zoning ordinance for this particular more than one dwelling unit, it does state that the overall property still has to comply with the minimum lot size. So if, for example, you had 2 acres, you couldn't do this. You would need to have the minimum, essentially the minimum theoretical lot size so that you could divide them in the future. So that kind of caps it, where again, I don't see somebody taking a 1 or 2 or 3 acre parcel and trying to get a whole bunch of homes on it. Again, the ordinance is going to limit itself to
But you
larger
could, you know,
properties.
down the road, somebody, you know, one of those 2 outbuildings, you know, when they were no longer occupied, whoever was, you know, the grandson who's going to be living in the main house, could he rent those out?
Sure, yeah, without any special condition, he, you know, they could. Again, staff doesn't really have a concern with that. Whether it's a family member or a renter, going to generate the same number of traffic, the same use of well and septic and things like that. So we don't have a particular planning or zoning concern with who the occupant would be in the future.
I'm going to ask the county attorney. Tom, do you have any?
Well, the only thing, I'm not familiar, but we have the commissioner sitting here. It seems like to me it does raise a taxation issue. The typical 3 houses on 3 different lots, you pay extra for the building site. And so, if I understand correctly how we do it.
That's true.
Please let us know who you are.
Jamie Timberlake, 1450 Schroeder Road, Commissioner of Revenue. We're making it a three-peat tonight, so no problem. Remember the dwelling you had, the extra dwelling years back that had been demolished and was still there? We put multiple house sites.
The one y'all charged me for?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we got you some money back. We,
I remember very well.
yes, we put multiple house sites on parcels all the time. That's not a problem. If there's 2 dwellings, we charge 2 house
No, I
sites.
guess what I was asking though is typically when you value real estate, you have the acre, the 1 acre that's
Goes
the
with the
dwelling
house.
acre is always valued much higher than the other 70 acres.
That's
on it.
called a house site.
Right. but
So they would have 3 acres that would be called house
You would
sites.
do- that's
At
what I
that
was
higher
gonna-
value, we do it all the time.
Okay.
Tom,
You
you
got
I didn't know the
multiple
answer.
dwellings, you got multiple house sites.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Timberlake. Brett? Any other questions of staff?
I do,
And then
Mr.
Norvich's got a
Chairman.
few.
It won't take long. Brett, I don't even know if you can answer this, but, you know, Norwood is a historic gem, obviously, not just Powhatan, but Virginia and the nation. I've been in that home and have dined there and walked around the grounds. It's irreplaceable. There are issues with a property like this. For example, when you go to redo the gutters, I know they have to be copper on that house, very expensive. If you go to redo the chimney, you don't just stick a modern, you know, sleeve down in that chimney and call it fixed. You have to do things very specifically to maintain the historicity of that property. Is that going to be a problem going forward, especially when I heard the term renter? Does everybody understand what's involved? It can get quite expensive to turn these things into dwellings, which I guess is Connie's business, but then going forward, to rent, make any slight repairs, that's quite an issue.
Is that an issue for local government?
Could be.
Well, I think, I'm not, my understanding is it really is not a renter situation. It's a grandson ownership, and then a son in one house and mom and dad in the other house. So I doubt very seriously that Connie Harris I know is going to put a renter in her gym.
The grandson may. That's what I just heard.
I'll say
That's
to,
why I'm asking.
to your point, Mr. Nordvig, this conditional use permit situation, having in one parcel may be better in that regard. If they were divided off, then a separate owner could end up having them. That separate owner may not be interested in maintaining
Okay.
the historical
See what you-
integrity, or may not know what goes into some of these roofs and things, where with the conditional use permit, whether it's a renter or not, it's going to be under common ownership. So that owner could control those things through lease agreements, or typically they'd be the ones taking care of the roof, not the person they're leasing to. So for that, I think having them under one single property may be better. Again, ultimately up to the property owner.
And, you know, Angie, to your point, do we directly control, you know, that they put certain gutters on their home? No, but we are about to vote on a conditional use permit that goes down that road. So really, the only quote-unquote control we have is right now, in my mind anyway. So that's part of my decision-making for this vote, is some future renter that the grandson may allow in there, if it's in their agreement that they are allowed to make minor repairs to those outbuildings, which is their home. There's issues there, that's all.
I've gotten completely lost. I don't see how anything that we're doing right now controls future agreements with potential renters that may or may not.
Because we're allowing, this permit allows for the outbuildings to become residents.
But this permit has no bearing on the future use of those outbuildings or their gutters. We don't have any skin in the gutter game.
Okay, I don't really want to make an issue out of it. When
Right.
I heard the word renter, that made my antenna go up. You know, this county has some control at this moment over that historic gem. And so I just wanted to touch on that issue.
But
Go ahead.
she can rent that historic gym right now if she wants to and never ask us a question. She doesn't need a conditional use permit for that. She could rent the whole shooting match and say, have at it. You have fun maintaining this behemoth. So I just don't understand that bridge.
The great house is protected, it can't be modified, but I don't know about the outbuildings.
Unless she wants to take it off the register.
She can,
That's up
she
to
can
her
modify,
too.
on her historic property, you can modify it a certain percentage. When you go over the percentages, when you have your issues in historic properties. So, you know, again, Mr. Norvik's concerns are, you know, his concerns may be very valid. We all have different thought processes. I guess,
It is the outbuildings I'm talking about, because when you convert those to residences, there's going to be quite a bit of change. I'm not talking about the main house.
so Brett, again, so to David's point, you have no issues with the zoning. Tom seems okay. So any other questions of staff before we have are having a public hearing on this matter? So anyone else ask questions of staff before we have the public hearing? Okay. Thank you. Stay close by, Brett. So we'll have a public hearing on ordinance 2017-14 for Constance Kennan Harris for a second and I guess third dwelling on the property at Norwood. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Anybody have any questions of staff? Now that Mr. Williams, this is in your district, we typically allow you, the district person, to make a recommendation. I know you met with the applicant and talked with her quite extensively, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we approve the conditional use permit that's before us tonight, and make the motion based on public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice.
I'll second that motion, and again, our planning commission voted 5-0 after wrestling with it. I think, if you read it, so they had much discussion. It may be very similar to what we had. They recommended approval 5-0. Staff is recommending approval. I'm going to trust the professionals here that they figured this thing out, and I think that this does give the ability to the family to maintain the property and still live there and enjoy, then this is a good thing. So I'm in support of the motion that Mr. Williams put forward.
And a roll call vote, Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Nordvig.
Aye.
Mrs. Cabell.
Aye.
Mr. Melton.
Aye.
And Mr. Tucker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. So last public public hearing. We'll now move on to our item 14, our public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time, and I won't read all the other stuff.
Adam Sadler, 983 Mannequin Road. Chief Deputy with the Sheriff's Office. Just want to let you guys know that last weekend, starting on Friday through Tuesday, was National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Week. Myself, the sheriff, and 11 other people from our agency went, as well as 2 firefighters that are our TAC team medics and 2 troopers from Powhatan. Just a little facts. The first officer that they've been able to get history on that was killed in the line of duty was in 1791. The highest year of deaths of officers you would think would have been recently, but in all actuality, it was not. It was in 1974. It was 280 officers died in the line of duty that year, which is quite high. We put 143 new names on the wall this year that actually died in 2016. The sheriff, myself, and 1 other officers have been up to the memorial for the last 11 years since we lost an officer on November 20th, 2006. That was Robbie Green. If you ever get the opportunity to go there during the actual police week and walk around Judicial Square, if you can walk around it with a clear set of eyes without crying, you've accomplished something more than I can. It's quite remarkable. There's fellow officers, family members, small children, writing letters to their mom and dad, their uncles, some of which they never met. It's quite emotional. It was, in my opinion, I look forward to that particular set of 4 or 5 days more than any other vacation that I go on, just to be able to be around other fellow officers and know exactly what they're going through and be there to support them and their families. That's all I have. Just round number, 21,183 names are on the wall right now, which is 21,183 too many.
Yep.
But it is the job that we choose to take, and I just wanted to bring it up to you guys to let you know that the Powhatan Sheriff's Office, State Police, our fire department, all the Board of Supervisors, we appreciate everything that's done for our community by the sheriff's deputies, the state troopers, our firefighters, EMS workers, and thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sadler, for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the second public comment period. We'll now move on to item 15, county attorney comments.
I actually do have a comment tonight, Mr. Chairman. I actually kind of like speed closed session. Maybe we can make that a regular part of our agenda.
Yep. We all kind of liked it, so it makes us not get long-winded. Thank you for your comments. We'll now move on to item 16, county administrator comments. Ted, do you have any comments?
Keeping with that, I have no comments.
I like that. Board comments?
I have just a couple quick ones, and Brett, if you could maybe take a note or two, because I want you to give this to our new resident engineer, Kevin, from VDOT. I'd like to make sure that we get a current speed study done on Route 13, going, I guess it would be north to Route 60, where it's currently 55. I'd like to consider that going to at least 45. I'd like to get a speed study done on Milk Water Road, especially starting at the entrance to Milk Water where the brick arches are, all the way to the end of the dead end, which makes no sense to be 45 through there. To me, that's a residential neighborhood, which typically are 25. The golfers might not be happy, but I think it should be looked at. I'd like to, the gentleman approached us last month about trying to announce Ballsville, Route 13 in Ballsville. The speed limit does drop there quite drastically, but the announcement needs to be both east and west for the reduction in speed limit. And they do have to cross the street to go to their mailbox. And I watched it take place, and then I'm worried that maybe there are kids that would walk across there to go to a school bus and all those things. So I'd like to get a better announcement there. And then on the Route 13, if we can get some more farmers, a couple more farmers signed. We had an accident just last week on Friday where a farmer was hauling his hay on his trailer, in a Jeep ran into the back of the trailer and just knocked the bejeevuses out of the farmer. And I don't know if it'll help. I don't know all the circumstances, but thank goodness he had a trailer full of hay versus just having a couple bales on his tractor, because it would probably have killed him if it hadn't been for the trailer there. Now, the vehicle was in bad shape. So if we could maybe see about, there's a couple, we have the signs that we put in certain, out on 711, on 684. We even have one on 13. Maybe we can get another one to announce that please be friendly to your farmer. That's all I have. So, any other comments? Good.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Those opposed? You can stay. No.
Tom, have a good trip.